Hey, good day, everyone. Paul Lawrence Vann here. I'm known as Mr. Leadership is Influence. And I hope that you're doing great today. And on this episode, I'll be talking about teamwork. And as you all know, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. And don't forget, there's no I in team. So that means we're working together. And more importantly, collaboration, problem solving leads to better outcomes. So when we collaborate, we get together with other team members, with our managers, as well as with the leaders with the title, we get a lot more done than if we do it as individuals. And one of the people that we can thank for this is Albert Einstein, primarily because a lot of his problem solving and relativity was a result of conversations that he had with other people. And so what I'm assuming is these were very bright people, very intelligent people, and he would take the information they provided and just kind of package it up. And through that collaboration, he came up with some really good ideas and really concepts, and he was noted for it. But it was also largely because of the team that was around and other people who wanted to work with him because they knew that he would come out with some good results, things that would make a difference in the lives of other people and processes as well. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Again, a quick wrap up and summation of my background. I myself served over 20 years in the United States Air Force as a military officer, and I worked in the Pentagon 12 of the 20 years, and then 1 year to include a year on Capitol Hill in a fellowship program. And I was still in the Air Force at that time. And then I retired a couple of years after that. And I had a really wonderful time, but leadership has been a part of my life since forever. And I'm glad that it is, and it continues to this day. And those who adapt this and pick up on it, you will go a lot further than if you did not. Because you become a great asset for your organization as well as for yourself. And every individual in leadership goes on a leadership journey. So I'm hoping that through some of these episodes that I have on this YouTube channel, Leadership is Influence, that you will walk away a much better leader as a result of it, and ultimately to become a leader of influence. So let's get into it. As I mentioned before, collaborative problem solving leads to better outcomes. And again, that's teamwork, working with a team at your organization. And you're no longer working as an individual, but you're working collectively to carry out the mission and the goals and the objectives of the leader, the managers and the leaders. So collaborations matter. And then people are more likely to take calculated risks by being on a team because a lot of times that does, in fact, lead to innovation. And if they have the support of the team. And what's important about creativity and innovation is that it will give you a competitive advantage among other people in your industry. And so if you, in fact, if you produce EVs or electric vehicles, then if you have just one or two things that are different than your competition, it's going to give you a competitive advantage. And of course, we know that's one of the big things taking place now. And we also know things such as AI and GPT, and some other applications out there would make a difference as well. And so we want to make sure that we do that. So I'm sharing these things for leaders to understand the aspects of teamwork. But as I mentioned before, this is all about the three-legged stool. It has the leader by title, the manager or supervisors, and the employees. And so that gives you your three-legged stool. And on top of that stool are the goals, the vision, and the influence that the leader puts forward to get others to follow him so that they can achieve the goals that they have set for themselves. And the next thing is working on a team encourages people to grow, and it encourages personal growth and increases job satisfaction and reduces stress. So one of the things that takes place is personal growth is always good for you, whether it's personal growth means that you have a better understanding of your teammates and how team building takes place, whether you receive some of that as a volunteer with an organization that you support and you advocate for, or if you do it at work. It's always very important because we do what? we grow through personal growth. So the more we learn, the better off we are. It's like when I began podcasting, and I didn't know how to do it. So I invested in a program, and for an entire month, I learned the entire process from the concept, idea, all the way through the actual first podcast episode that I actually produced. And then I also learned how to edit and then market the programs. And then I was able to bring people on, and I was able to promote their books and their coaching and their speaking. And so that was one element of learning something, a technical aspect of what I consider a job as a part of what I do. And that's worked out just great. And I also, before I became a speaker, I would actually hire someone as a speaking coach. It was a late, great Dottie Walters, and she wrote the book, Speak and Grow Rich. And she was in Washington, D.C., and I went down to a session that she had downtown, and I hired her to be my coach. So she was my very first coach. So I had to learn the entire process of being a professional speaker, and it still serves me to this day. And so, again, working as a team, it encourages personal growth and increases job satisfaction. So everyone wants to be a part of a great team. And you also want to do work that's worthy, work that makes a difference, and work that you can be noted for, not only you, but the entire team. And I think that's great. And it also reduces stress because you're not the only one who has to come up with the ideas. Then you have to do the research. And then you have to do the marketing of that concept and idea. And then you have to sell that concept and idea to the management and leadership. And so you don't have the burden of just going it alone. And of course, this depends on what organization you work in. But in organizations I've worked with in the past, whether it was Mobil Oil or the Air Force or UPS when I used to work for them in college, it was always something that came up that gave me more of an opportunity to go one step further, whether it was attending leadership training courses or it was ethics courses for Mobil Oil or UPS, me conditioning to even be able to do what I did during that time, loading, unloading trucks and sorting packages. So these things are very important. But more importantly, and our next item is better problem solving. Because again, when you're able to bounce these concepts and ideas off of other people, you can solve some problems and you can also grow from that. So you can always look at the skills and the knowledge, and then you can play that off of other people. And many times many brains are better than one brain is really what the concept is all about, because when you are going it alone, it's a little bit more difficult to get things done. But if you have 3 or 4 people who are also performing with you, you're no longer performing as an individual, and that's a good thing. That's always a good thing. So that's one of the concepts that I wanted to share with you, and I believe that it will really help you. I can remember after I retired from the Air Force, and I did a lot of volunteer work as I was beginning my speaking career, but I decided to work for the governor of Maryland at that time, and he had this program, immigrants who are already in the state of Maryland, helping them get settled in, even if they've been here a year. And sometimes the people would come from a country where they don't really have banking or they don't trust banking. And then sometimes housing, other times setting up bank accounts. So I worked on the financial working group, so we helped them understand if they were to go get a mortgage, what it would entail. And then some groups of the diverse groups, they don't have banking like we do here in the US, so they actually have banking specifically for them in the US from their country, but they actually live in here in the state of Maryland. And so it's important for us to take care of them. And then what sprang from that was setting up a financial literacy program in high schools in the state of Maryland and offered it as an elective. And it was a Senate Bill 500, and I worked with the state legislature and met with different individuals, state representatives, and then it was turned into a bill, Senate Bill 500. But 5 years later, or 10 years later, now it's a mandatory course for high school students that they must have it before they graduate. And a lot of it had to do with the 2008 economic crisis that occurred. But it's concepts and ideas like this that can really help you to make a way. And then to receive a letter of acknowledgement from the governor is also very good as a part of your resume, or when people are looking at your background, that you've done work at that level. So I did work at the Capitol Hill level when I worked for a member of Congress, and then for the governor for the state in which I reside in. And then the next item, so far we've covered collaboration, collaborative problem solving leads to better outcomes, and people are more likely to take calculated risks in a group as opposed to going it alone because of the creativity and the innovation that comes from that. And then working on a team also encourages personal growth and increased job satisfaction and reduces stress. And then better problem solving, what I just talked about, where many brains are better than one. And then the next item is they're happier team members. And why are team members happier? Because they're not doing all the work themselves, but they can rely on one another, build work relationships to help them, and they can support each other. So that's always a good thing. And it's reported that 80% report higher emotional well-being as a result of being on a good team, because it brings into consideration, people receive honest feedback, there's personal openness, and then mutual respect. So it's one of those things that we're all in it together, and that's always good. And this example for me is looking back when I was on the volunteer for the Olympic Committee, trying to bring the Olympics to Washington, D.C. for 2012. Well, we put in our bid, we hosted the Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee. We had all the venues outlined. They had a youth day, and I was the host for that. So I had 12 Olympians working for me in different track and field sports. And they actually had a track meet, and it was Washington, D.C. Olympic Youth Day. And we had that at George Mason University. Now, in the end, when the decision was made as to what U.S. city would represent the U.S., it ended up being New York, San Francisco, and then Washington, D.C. But ultimately, London won that bid for 2012, and they did a really great job. But I think we could have done a better job in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. But that's just one example of people with different skill sets, and you put them together and they can come up with different ideas and concepts. And then it also boosts productivity. And when you look at the overall objective of a leader and managers and employees, that three-legged stool I was telling you about, those visions and goals and objectives that they have, ultimately what they want is a higher and enhanced business performance. Because in the end, that's what they will be, a company is measured on, their business performance, even in comparison to their regional office or local office, but also the other companies in the same industry. So if there's a industry on sports fitness, then everyone would be evaluated in the industry, but individual companies will be as well. And they would know how well they're doing based on the productivity and the boosting of it that happens. And then oftentimes individuals have boosted productivity when they get a pat on the back from the leadership. Hey, job well done, or from their peers. Hey, you did a great job. That was a wonderful idea. We were able to make it happen. We brought it to fruition. And so when we look at that, that makes a tremendous difference with people. And then the next item is to expand the creativity, because creativity, it really doesn't cost anything, but it does take into account the brain power, because you have to think what has been done before, and then how can we make it better? And that's where creativity comes in, whether it's being able to produce more products, being able to expand the services that are available to the customers. And then, of course, as I stated in an earlier channel episode, is that we want to have great customer interactions or experiences. And that's always one of the most important things, like customer service and customer care. And so that's very important. And then, of course, with expanded creativity is different perspectives, group brainstorming, open communication. Of course, that yields creativity. It yields trust, which is very important for any organization. And also being able to provide suggestions without judgment. That's very important. And then I'm going to finish on this note with the loss of burnout, because sometimes if you get a type A person, they're just out there, they operating by themselves, and they end up getting burnt out. But you don't have that as much from a group standpoint or from teamwork. And so this is very important. And this way they can be sharing the load as opposed to taking on the entire burden, lift that off their shoulder. And then there's emotional support for each other. And then there's not as much stress completing the work. And then it's better than doing it all by yourself. And so these are some things that are entailed with teamwork, which I believe makes that dream work. And I want you to consider where you are today in terms of some of the teams that you worked on and how those particular teams worked out for you. I'm not necessarily talking about sports team, but if it happened to be sports team, that's fine too. And I'll just give you an example of a sports team I participated on when I was in the Air Force. I was working for the National Guard Bureau in the Pentagon, and we had not only a legislative trip that we went on, but we also participated in a team triathlon. So there you go, teamwork. And there were 23 other countries that we competed against, and we had like a triathlon. And I actually would run 6.2 miles. Someone would swim about a mile in the ocean. The other person rode the bike for about 26.2 miles, like distance of a running marathon. And so through that, we met wonderful people from different countries, some of the military academy participants. Also, we flew down with some of them. And so through an experience like that, you learn and you really reinforce your teamwork and team building muscles. And I make that comparison with a bodybuilder. They don't become a premier bodybuilder overnight, but they actually do it over time. And so the same thing would happen with you. And I know that teamwork can take you a lot further than as an individual. And if you happen to be leading that team, so much better off you are, because again, you want to get as much experience as you can, because experience does matter. And then if you become a leader of influence, what that entails is that you not only are a leader of influence, but you're able to develop other people on your staff. Maybe the bringing in the supervisors or managers and employees, everyone is a part of that three-legged stool. And so that way you can carry out the vision, the mission, the objectives, and the goals that you have set for your organization. If you want to learn more about me, you can do so, and I've posted it here beside my name, and it's https://link tree. That's linkr.ee/Paul Lawrence Vann, PaulLawrence. And I think I may have misspelled that. I need a new pair of glasses. So that's Paul Lawrence Vann, PaulLawrenceVann. And just go out there to Linktree. You not only see that I speak on leadership, I have leadership speeches, and I have diversity speeches and motivational speeches. And I also have leadership development workshops. I have my books out there, and then I have my digital courses on there as well. And I also have a link to my YouTube channel and also my financial literacy and financial intelligence podcast called Wealth Academy Podcast. So go out there. I'd love to receive your support. Have others that you know. I ask that you subscribe, have others that you know, your friends, your family, and your colleagues, have them subscribe as well. And I'd love to hear from you. You can do so at info@paulvannspeaks.com. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode of Leadership is Influence. Have a great day, and